people will know I'm no supporter of Trump, and I'm no supporter of his opponents either, in terms of the George Soros hijacked Democratic Party, which has an agenda to, in effect, make America a Marxist state. So there's your choice, America. The next election, do you want a Trump presidency, part two, a president who's owned by Israel and owned by the neocon cabal that answers to Israel? Or do you want the Soros hijacked Democratic Party? CIA is a law unto itself, and it's part of this permanent government. Some people call it the deep state, but the deep state is only part of the permanent government. But it's part of this permanent government, the CIA, which is always there, whichever president comes in, and just carries on running the same agenda. This CIA operative, quote, whistleblower, was in touch with this guy Schiff, who has been desperate to unseat Trump since the last election. And the idea, if you put all this together, is that the death cult controls the Democrats and the death cult controls the Trump administration, and they're playing one off against each other. They're keeping constant pressure on Trump, so that he's constantly in a state of defending himself, and constantly, if you like, on the back foot, so that they can use him to introduce things that they want, and by putting him on the back foot, they can suppress things that he may want, but the agenda of the death cult doesn't want. So you keep them in line by constantly creating these points of pressure to undermine them. Those people supporting Trump in the alternative media need to appreciate that he is no different to all the others. He just tells that constituency, which he needs to get re-elected, what it wants to hear. But in the background, Trump is just like all the others. That Trump is not the great savior that so many think that he is. Trump supporters would just look at what is done rather than what he said, and therefore realize that he's just another front man, just like all the rest. And if you look at Trump, Trump is owned by Israel. And if he's owned by Israel, he's owned by the Sabbatean Frankist cult. This is why ever since Trump came to power, he's given Israel everything it wanted. The chief scientist advisor to Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, is a guy called Patrick Vallance. He was a long-time executive of GlaxoSmithKline, which is massively involved in this whole vaccine for the non-existent COVID-19. And GlaxoSmithKline has massive connections and interactions and business connections to Bill Gates. So it's a web, and the politicians are basically sidelined. What they say is, we're listening to the science, we're being driven by the science. No, you're being driven by the Gates cult agenda through the scientists. And I would take Trump more seriously in terms of his pushback on this if people like Birx and Fauci had long disappeared into history and were no longer involved in it, but they still are.